Okay, for today's notes, we're going to actually start with the review. So make sure you have your pink review sheet. Should say review number 1 on the top of it. Okay, there's some pieces of this that we really need to make sure we understand before we go into our notes. So the first thing we're going to look at is the first problem, which says circle all the numbers that are prime. Remember that prime means a number that can only be divided by 1 in itself. The number 1 and itself. Those are only two numbers that divide it. So if I'm checking to see if a number is prime, I look at each number individually. There is one little exception. The number 1 is considered neither prime nor the opposite of prime, which is composite. So we're not going to circle 1. It's a special case, and it doesn't fit into either category. Okay, looking at the number 3. Can 3 be divided by anything but 1 and 3? Well, the only thing smaller than it is 2, and 2 doesn't divide 3, so 3 is definitely a prime number. Okay, looking at the number 5. 5 can be divided by 1 and 5, but can it be divided by 2? You can check it on your calculator if you need. If you divide 5 by 2, hopefully we know that it's not. It would be a much better situation. 5 divided by 2 gives me a decimal. It is not evenly divisible by 2. If you try 3, 5 is not divisible by 3. It's also not divisible by 4. It is prime. As we get to bigger numbers, we'll use our calculator more, like 11. 11 is divisible by 1. It's divisible by 11. It's not even, so it's not divisible by 2. Okay, and if I test all the values, 3, 4, 5, continue on, and test, we'll find that 11 is not divisible by any number but 1 and itself 11. Okay, checking 15. If I look at 15, I can check to see, is it divisible by anything other than 1 in itself? It's definitely not divisible by 2. It's not even. Is it divisible by 3? Yeah, actually it is. It's divisible by 3, and I get a whole number value of 5. Another way to check is using what we've been doing before, which is our y equals. If I go into my y equals and check for my factors, I do 15 divided by x, and I take a look at my table, and I check to see, okay, it's divisible by 1 and 15, that works. Is it divisible by anything else that gives me whole numbers? And here I see 3 and 5. So 15 is not a prime, okay, because it is divisible by 3 and 5. It has factors other than 1 and 15. If I continue on and check these, I'm going to show you one example that's definitely prime. There's more, so don't think this is only one. But there's one that's definitely prime, and that's 23. I'm going to look at 23. So 23 divided by x. If I look at my table, okay, there's 1 and 23. 2 gives me a decimal, 3 gives me a decimal, 4 gives me a decimal, 5 does, 6. And I continue on, I keep seeing decimals. Okay, once I've gone halfway, 20, 11, and 2, if I haven't seen any perfect pairs of factors, there's not going to be any. If you want to double check and make sure, you can continue on all the way back till you get to 21. Or 23, sorry, that was our number that we're working with. I got to 23 and 1 again. There was no other perfect factors other than 23 and 1. None of the rest of them gave me values that were not decimals. And it's always good to put your calculator back to 1 so that you don't have to worry about scrolling later. Okay, so 23 is definitely a prime. Okay, I didn't check them all. We did check 15. 15 is not prime. 1 is neither prime nor composite. Take a minute, pause the video, and check the remaining values. See which of those are prime. Okay, hopefully you've checked those. The prime ones that you should have circled go past 23 up here at 31 and 41. Those are our only other primes. The rest of these have factors that are whole numbers besides the number n in 1. Okay, let's keep going with this idea of factors because that's important for our lesson today. We have listing the factors of 24 and 40 and 17. Pause the video, take a minute, and write those out for me. Okay, you know how to do that. Again, you're putting in your calculator y equals. You do 24 divided by x and look at your table. Pause the video, try those three. Okay, hopefully you finished those. You should have 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, and that's all our factors for 24. For 40, you should have 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, 5 and 8. 17, you'll see, is prime. The only two factors it has are 1 and itself. So this number is prime. Okay, now greatest common factor. We talked about that a long time ago. This is a key value that we're going to need to work with a lot as we look at our next lesson. Greatest common factor looks at all the factors and say, what's the biggest one that they have in common? So we're looking at 24 and 40 just like we did above. So we have all their factors listed out. We want to know which is the largest factor that they have in common. Well, they both have 1. They both have 2. They both have 4. Do they have anything else in common? So as I look at bigger factors, here's 5. I don't see 5 above. 8. Oh, yep, there's 8 in both. Okay, 10. 10's not above. 20's not above. 40's not above. 8 is the biggest factor that they have in common. So 8 is our greatest common factor of 24 and 40. The nice thing is, though, we don't have to list that out every time. We actually have a part of our calculator that shows us how to do that. Okay, we want to find the greatest common factor of 14 and 19. To do that, we go to Math. And I believe it was num. Let me see. There it is. Okay, and it's called greatest common divisor. So let me do that again so you can see. We press Math. Okay, that takes us to this screen. We want to get over to num, so we press the arrow right to num. And all the way down, we get to greatest common divisor is the D for that. We choose Enter, and we put in our two numbers we want to find the greatest common factor of, 14 and 49. So we type in 14, and then you need to type a comma. And the comma is above the number 7. So we press comma, and then we type in our second number, 49. Close our parentheses. Hit Enter, and it tells me my greatest common divisor, which is the same thing as factor, is 7. Okay, so 7 is our greatest common factor between 14 and 49. I'll do one more with you, 25 and 40. Okay, again, we go to Math, and then we want to go over to num and down to greatest common divisor. And this time we want to find the greatest common divisor between 25 and 40. So we type 25, comma, 40. Close that parenthesis, hit Enter, and we find that 5 is our greatest common factor. Okay, stop this video, do C and D, and once you're done, we'll go back and we'll start our notes on the actual note sheet.